Hello and welcome to the Shakespeare Podcast. In this episode, we'll be looking at the story of Twelfth Night. Twelfth Night has a main story involving the Duke Orsino, the Countess Olivia, and Viola disguised as a man called Cesario. And it has a subplot or more minor story involving Sir Toby Belch, Sir Andrew Aguecheek, and Malvolio, the Countess Olivia's steward. As it is important for a student to know what happens in each act, this episode of the Shakespeare Podcast gives you a scene-by-scene and act-by-act breakdown of the story of the play Twelfth Night. In Act 1, the play opens with Orsino, Duke of Illyria, who is in love. He's so in love that he's exhausted. He's so in love that he can't stand it anymore. Orsino is in love with Olivia, but Olivia has shut herself off from the world to mourn the death of her brother. In the next scene, Viola has arrived in Illyria after being shipwrecked and separated from her brother, and the captain who saved her explains that Illyria is run by the Duke Orsino, who's in love with Olivia, the daughter of a count. Unfortunately, Olivia's father and brother have died recently, and she won't see any man, even the Duke. Viola decides to disguise herself as a man to work for the Duke, and the captain promises to help her and keep her disguise a secret. Act 1, Scene 3 introduces us to the characters of the subplot. Sir Toby is talking to Olivia's maid, Maria, who warns Sir Toby that his drunken antics are not going down well with his cousin Olivia. They discuss Sir Andrew Aguecheek, quote, a foolish knight, who is trying to woo Olivia but has no chance. Enter Sir Andrew, who proves his foolishness right away. Maria makes fun of him before exiting stage left. Sir Andrew thinks he should leave the court because he has no chance with Olivia, but Sir Toby convinces him to stay and have another drink. In Scene 4, Viola is now working for the Duke, and Orsino sends her to speak to Olivia on his behalf. Viola tells us in an aside that the Duke isn't half bad-looking himself. Act 1, Scene 5 starts with Maria and Feste the Fool. The Fool has been missing for some time, and Maria says that he's in trouble with Olivia, but the Fool says he'll handle it. Enter Olivia and Malvolio with attendants, and the Fool wins her over with his wit, whilst Malvolio is very dismissive of the Fool and says, quote, I marvel your ladyship takes delight in such a barren rascal. Maria tells Olivia a gentleman is waiting to see her, and then Sir Toby enters and he is drunk. Sir Toby's drunken disgrace is used by Shakespeare as a contrast to Viola's polished performance once she's admitted to Olivia's presence. Viola gets to see Olivia and wins her over. Unfortunately, Olivia is falling for Viola dressed as a man rather than Orsino, who she's supposed to be falling in love with. Olivia sends Malvolio off with a ring for Viola, which she says she's returning, but we, the audience, know it's really Olivia giving Viola, disguised as a man, the ring. And that's the whole of Act 1. All the pieces are in place for the main love story and the subplot. We know Viola has a brother she's separated from, and we also know Malvolio hates the Fool. Both of these pieces of information will become more and more important later in the play. Act 2 begins with Antonio and Sebastian. Turns out Sebastian is Viola's twin brother, and he thinks that his sister is drowned. Sebastian is headed for Duke Orsino's court, but Antonio can't go with him because he's got lots of enemies in Illyria, not least at Orsino's court. Meanwhile, Malvolio has caught up with Viola to give her the ring, which Olivia says Viola left behind, but we know, the audience, that she didn't. Viola doesn't want the ring, so Malvolio throws it on the ground in some disdain and walks off. Viola guesses what's happened, that Olivia fancies her because she thinks she's a man. But Viola fancies Orsino because really she's a woman. Oh dear, whatever's going to happen next? In Act 2, Scene 3, Sir Toby and Sir Andrew Egutique are having a few drinks. The fool comes in to entertain them and they pay him to sing. Everyone's having a great time until Malvolio comes in to scold them and try to put an end to it all. But the revellers tell him to get lost and he leaves. It's Maria who comes up with the idea of playing a practical joke on Malvolio to get him to believe that Olivia's in love with him so they can make a fool of him. Sir Andrew says he's running out of money, but Sir Toby says he'll have plenty of money once Olivia marries him. It is apparent Sir Andrew is paying for the party and has no chance of marrying Olivia. Act 2, Scene 4, the Duke, still in love and still talking about music, asks Viola, disguised as a man, what kind of woman she wants. And apparently Viola is looking for a woman that's a lot like the Duke, to which the Duke says, then she's going to be ugly and she'll be far too old for you, not realising that he's talking about himself. The fool comes in and sings a song. Essentially, there's a musical interlude, and we go back to Viola talking about her love for the Duke as a woman, disguised as a man, but really a woman. Or, as Viola puts it, quote, I am all the daughters of my father's house, and all the brothers too. Because, of course, she believes that her brother has drowned in the shipwreck. But we, the audience, know that he hasn't. Act 2, Scene 5, Sir Toby, Andrew Egutique, Maria, and Fabian, who has also been insulted by Malvolio, lay a trap with the letter. Notice that Malvolio is thinking of himself as Count Malvolio, i.e. Olivia's husband, even before he reads the letter. And Malvolio is fantasising about telling off Sir Toby, about his behaviour, and about his friendship with, quote, a foolish knight, which Andrew Egutique correctly assumes is about him. So, when Malvolio finds the letter, there's no surprise that he interprets its contents as referring to himself. Maria returns to inquire whether the letter has worked and what it will mean later in the play. And that's Act 2. Viola loves Orsino, who loves Olivia, who loves Viola. Got that? And Malvolio has been tricked into thinking Olivia likes him so that he'll make a fool of himself. Act 3 opens with Viola and the Fool, to show us that Viola is smart enough to keep up with the Fool. We've already seen that the Fool is too fast for Sir Toby and Sir Andrew. And then we see that Viola, with Sir Toby and Sir Andrew, she can keep up with them as well, and is actually a better courtier than either of them once Olivia turns up. Finally, the audience gets to see the scene we've been waiting for, which is Olivia making advances on Viola, thinking she's a man, but we know she's a woman, and so does Viola. Everything said in this part of the scene has another meaning. For example, when Viola says, quote, I am not what I am, Olivia thinks Viola, as a man, is being coy and saying, I'm not the guy for you. But we, the audience, we know that what Viola really means is, I'm not a guy at all. Olivia thinks Viola is playing hard to get. Viola tells her that she'll never love a woman and then gets out of there as quick as she can. Act 3, Scene 2. Sir Andrew Egutique is ready to give up on Olivia and go home, But Sir Toby and Fabian convince him that the only way to win Olivia's hand in marriage is to challenge Viola, disguised as a man, to a duel. We, the audience, know the only reason they want Sir Andrew Aguecheek to stay is because he pays for all the drinks. Neither Sir Toby or Fabian thinks that either Viola or Sir Andrew Aguecheek will actually fight each other. The scene ends with Maria coming in and telling them that Malvolio has fallen for their trick and is dressed in yellow stockings and cross garters, and off they go to find out what's happening. Scene 3 is Antonio and Sebastian again. Antonio tells us he can't be seen in the streets of Illyria because in a sea battle he killed a lot of men from this town, and he lends Sebastian his purse in case he needs money. The next scene shows Malvolio trying to woo Olivia in the manner that the letter told him to. Olivia thinks Malvolio is mad, but Malvolio still thinks the letter is true, and he's going to continue with his behaviour. He's pretty sure he's got this in the bag. Olivia leaves to see Viola, and Sir Toby, Maria and Fabian try to deal with Malvolio, who tells them all to get lost and exits stage left. Maria says they must go after him, and Sir Toby suggests that they tie Malvolio up and put him in a darkened room, as you would with a mad person. Enter Sir Andrew Aguecheek with a letter challenging Viola to a duel. Of course the letter is ridiculous, and Sir Toby and Fabian make fun of it. Maria says Viola is with Olivia, and when Viola leaves, Sir Toby will give her Sir Andrew's challenge. But, says Sir Toby, not in the form of the letter, which is stupid, but verbally, saying that he's going to big up Sir Andrew Aguecheek as a great fighter and a great swordsman who's full of anger and rage. They leave as Olivia and Viola enter. Viola restates that she can't be Olivia's boyfriend, but Olivia wants to see her again. Viola, disguised as a man, that is. Sir Toby accosts Viola as she leaves Olivia's house and says, "There's a fighting man waiting for you in the orchard, ready for mortal combat." Sir Toby goes off to get Sir Andrew, and Fabian says he'll help Viola out of this situation. They exit as Sir Toby and Sir Andrew arrive. Meanwhile, Sir Toby has been telling Sir Andrew how deadly Viola is, disguised as a man, and, quote, "They say he has been a fencer for the Sophie," that is, the ruler of Persia. So now Toby is saying that Viola is a first-class swordsman from Persia, and Sir Andrew doesn't stand a chance. The humour here derives from the idea of a duel between two people who don't actually want to fight each other. At the moment they're about to fight, Antonio enters and draws his sword in order to defend Viola, who he assumes is Sebastian. But Antonio is abruptly arrested and asks Sebastian for his purse. But Viola doesn't know anything about his purse, and thus Antonio thinks that Sebastian, who's actually Viola, has double-crossed him. But as he calls Viola Sebastian before being carted away, Viola realises that her brother might still be alive. Viola leaves, and Fabian and Sir Toby convince Sir Toby that Viola must be a coward after the way she mistreated Antonio. Act 4 opens with Sebastian being mistaken for Viola by the fool. Sebastian gives him some money and tells him to clear off. Enter Sir Andrew, Sir Toby and Fabian looking for Viola. Sir Andrew thinks Sebastian is Viola and attacks him. Sebastian smacks Sir Andrew around a bit, and then Sir Toby is about to get in a sword fight with Sebastian when Olivia enters. She stops Sir Toby, sends him and his friends away so that she can be alone with Viola, who is in fact Sebastian. Olivia apologises to Viola Sebastian and says, "Why don't you come home with me and I'll explain everything." Sebastian, of course, is a little bit confused about a beautiful woman asking him to go home with her, but he says, "Okay then," and off they go. Meanwhile, Maria gets the fool to dress as Sir Topaz the curate and speak to Malvolio, who is mad or possessed by demons or both. And Malvolio is in the difficult position of trying to prove that he's not mad. In the next scene, that is scene 3, Sebastian has a speech where he thinks he might be going mad because he's got this beautiful woman giving him gifts and taking him home, and he's pretty sure that this is too good to be true. Enter Olivia with a priest who says to Sebastian, "I know this is a bit rushed, but I think we should get married." And Sebastian's like, "Well, okay then, if you think we need to get married, if that's what you want to call it." And so to Act 5, when I dare say things might get straightened out. Act 5 opens at Olivia's house. The Fool and Fabian on stage. Enter Orsino, Viola and Lourdes. And then Antonio under arrest. Viola says that this is the man who, quote, "did rescue me." Orsino says he recognises Antonio as an enemy and asks why he came to Illyria. Antonio says he saved Viola, who of course he thinks is Sebastian, from drowning, looked after him and lent him his purse. And when Antonio was arrested, this youth, quote, "not meaning to partake with me in danger, pretended he didn't know me and refused to return my purse." Orsino thinks instinctively that something's wrong here and asks when Viola came to the town, and Antonio says we've been together for the last 3 months. But guess what? Before any more can be revealed, in walks Olivia with her crew. And Olivia tells Viola, thinking that she's Sebastian, that she's not kept her promise. But Orsino wants to tell Olivia about his love for her, but she says it's too late because I'm married to Viola, who she thinks is a man, which she is if she's Sebastian, if you see what I mean. And the Duke's not very happy about that, and Viola says, "Well, there's no way I've got a wife." And the priest comes in, and Olivia says, "Tell everyone what just happened," and the priest says, "Yep, I just married him." And it all looks like it's going pear-shaped when in comes Sir Andrew to say Sir Toby needs a surgeon because Sebastian, Viola Sebastian, has injured him in a fight. Sir Toby, Andrew, the Fool and Fabian come in, they've all been injured, and as they leave, Sebastian enters to apologise for hurting Olivia's kinsman. And Sebastian and Viola get to meet for the first time, and everyone sees that they are twins. And they have this comic bit where they recognise each other by going through their lives together. Like, my father had a mole. That's funny, so did my father. That kind of thing. The Fool reads a letter from Malvolio, who is called for, and it turns out he wasn't mad after all. The Fool reminds Malvolio how he called him a barren rascal, quote unquote, at the beginning of the play, and Malvolio exits saying, quote, "I'll be revenged on the whole pack of you." Orsino is going to marry Viola once she gets her girl clothes back on, which makes Olivia and Viola sisters-in-law, and Olivia and Orsino also become in-laws. And so off they go together to their happy ending, and the Fool is left on stage to sing a closing song. So the whole of Act 5 is one scene in which all the stories are drawn to a close. All the misunderstandings over Viola and Sebastian are resolved, the love affairs between Olivia and Sebastian, and Viola and Orsino, and all the subterfuge around the plot to trick Malvolio, they all get resolved in one scene. I have a feeling that this William Shakespeare guy might know what he's doing. I hope you've enjoyed this episode on the story of Twelfth Night, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Shakespeare Podcast.